Welcome back to the normally scheduled programming for one comic book a day as we are moving into the actual Superboy comic. Yes, it is now time to switch over to Superboy, switching back and forth between it and Adventure Comics as we do with Action and Superman until we catch up with Superman. So this is the first story in the first Superboy comic, the comic that actually said Superboy on it, even though he had existed in More Fun Comics and Adventure Comics beforehand, and has at least shown up in either Action or Superman, possibly even both at this point. I can't say for certain. I can remember one true Superboy story happening in one of those comics, but I'm pretty sure he's shown up. There's definitely stuff later with flashbacks, but I can't remember specifically when that happened in Superman, so it might not have happened yet. And I'm of two minds of this first story, which is The Man Who Could See Tomorrow, a Swami story. And I'm not of two minds about it being good. It's a little too messy. It's actually pretty all right for a Superboy story. It's just fairly messy, and I wish it was more focused on kind of what the climax is. In fact, it kind of has two climaxes. What I'm of two minds of is it's oddly a bookend story. Now, you would expect for maybe, even though Superboy is a very easy concept to get across to people quickly, that it's like a prequel story, essentially, just young Superman stories. I can see why you would kind of want to introduce that first, in case people might be confused that he is his son or something. Of course, like how Superboy is now Connor Kent. It was Jonathan, but Jonathan is just another Superman at this point. And the bookend gets that across. The problem I have with it is Superboy, as I've mentioned, has existed before, so it seems a little superfluous. Maybe if this is your first Superman comic you pick up, that's like a nice thing to see, that you get an opening with Superman, and then we flash back to a full Superboy story and then end at Superman. But I don't think it's necessary. And Adventure and sort of More Fun. More Fun did that origin story to begin with. Didn't feel necessary to do that, but they felt it necessary to open Superboy with. Like, as I said, this could be your first Superboy story, but in like 10 issues, that could be your first Superboy story, and it probably won't have a bookend in it. Though if Superboy 10 has a bookend story in it with Superman, I'm going to eat crow, apparently. Just going to be really weird if it is, because the 4 or 5 issues I have now read haven't done it again. And I think part of the problem is it's sort of a superfluous mystery story with Superman that the middle part, that is the Superboy story, barely covers. This is a Swami fortune teller type story. Fascinating way to begin it. There were quite a few fortune teller Swami stories, but for the most part, I think almost every single time they were charlatans. They're scam artists, right? That's what they have been consistently throughout the Superman books. This one is the real deal, having some sort of orb or eye of Chakta or something like that. Something they just completely came up with that sounded foreign. So I'm not all that sad at getting the name wrong, because it's literally just them coming up with something that sounded ancient, ethnic. The name itself is kind of insulting. And he legitimately sees a future. Most of it is Superboy kind of flying around, stopping things that he predicts that will actually happen. Fascinating. I think the most of a Swami type character actually having powers has been mostly through psychic hypnotism that Superman breaks out of. This one doesn't have that. And it's also a really weird story because the whole him aspect is dealt with by the fact that you are doomed, you are cursed if you use this eye, and he dies by freaking out eventually and running into the streets, which seems more on him than an actual curse. And it doesn't have much to do with Superboy. It at least has Superboy going around saving people. But our way into the story and our way out of the story at the end is this nurse he runs into, who he then remembers he went to school with. And she was predicted to not exist by her 20th or 21st birthday, which was heavy on her. And I feel like if the story had focused on this, so when we got back to the solution, solving essentially the mystery of why she wasn't going to exist anymore in the future, the story as a whole would work better. Instead, in a lot of ways, it feels like they sort of fit this on without much thought to the rest of it. It's not completely like that. It's definitely being written with the idea that we're going to solve this mystery. It's just that mystery is not particularly very big in the actual Superboy part of the story. And the solution's fairly easy. It's just that she gets married at that age, so her last name changes, so her name no longer exists technically. Unless she gets divorced and gets her name back. Haha, it's the 1940s, nearly the 50s. That ain't happening, no matter how big of a monster that dude is. Oh, good, the 50s are awful. You come to know I'm going to complain about the 50s once if I'm talking about it. It's a fine mystery. I just wish it was more involved in the story. Like, she's upset. Maybe Superboy could have helped her out of it. Instead, it feels like two separate stories, and one of those stories is basically not in the middle of the entire comic. So it's actually kind of fine written. It's just poorly structured and needed a little more focus, which is a pretty generic, constant review I've been giving to these comics. So that is it from Superboy #1, The Man Who Could See Tomorrow. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications when a new video goes up. I do this Monday through Friday, but Friday is Bat Friday. We're over a Batman story on the Detective Comics or Batman. And until next time, let's ponder the question, whatever did happen to the boy of tomorrow? And Superboy throws the eye back into the statue from Smallville Metropolis. So, A, that statue had to be sitting out in the open, and B, it's really impressive that that eye doesn't shatter when it goes right in there because of the velocity and force of that throw. Okay, have a great day.